Yeah, I don't have a U.S. passport, so I'd have to try my world passport and see how far that got me.
Wait, there's such a thing as a world passport?
Yes.
Yes, there is. And let's see, Daryl, how would you describe the world passport? Let's see if I
The
can find mine.
world passport, and one thing that I don't like about the world passport is it considers you to be a world citizen. And even though there's not a world government, it still has that word citizen in it. But it's basically a document, and I would love to be able to come up with something similar without the whole World Service Authority thing attached to it.
So it's issued by a group called the World Service Authority. It was started, I believe the man's name is Gary Davis, if I'm
Sounds right.
if I'm recalling correctly. Started by this guy who was in the military in the United States in World War II, I believe. And then after he got out of the war, he became very anti-war. And he basically, I don't know what it was that motivated him to do this, but he created this world passport and essentially renounced using the United States to travel around the world using their passport. So he created this world passport for himself, and he's been using the world passport to travel ever since then.
Yes.
And it's an amazing
Very
story. Really, to look into Gary Davis. I wanted to get him on the show a long time ago, and I reached out to the World Service Authority, and just was one of those things that the ball was in their court, I think, and they never really got back to me. But if you look him up, there's a video of him crossing the Vermont border, which is pretty entertaining. Now, this guy's still alive, and he's in his 90s today, and he's like this. He's this, this character, right? This interesting old guy that lives in, I think, the very northern portion of Vermont up
Yes.
there, the capital region of Vermont. And there's...
So he's taken all of his life experiences and holed himself up in a northern area in the mountains where hardly anybody will ever go visit him.
I don't know. He's old, so I mean, I don't know how much traveling he does these days, but he has
Right.
traveled to many countries.
I bet it would be really interesting to sit in a room with him for an hour.
It would, and he's been arrested many times as well. He's spent time in jail in many countries while they figure out what the hell to do with this guy who's got this world passport. But obviously he's made it through. He's sitting in his house probably right now in Vermont. And so when you watch the video of him crossing the Vermont border with the world passport, it's really cool. But at the same time, you get the impression that the people that work at the border know Gary. And
Yeah.
so like, oh, here's Gary with his...
They're wary of him.
Right, with his world passport.
Here's old crazy Gary.
Yeah. And so they just kind of wave him through, and it's totally fine for him. So it will be interesting, and I'd like to do it one of these days, whenever, maybe during Pork Fest or something like that, go up to the border and try to cross into Canada with a world passport just to see what happens. The problem is, though, I've got misdemeanor convictions, and Canada can be picky about the things that they let you in for versus not. So that could be an issue, which means I might go up to the border and then get held in detention by Canada for a while before being...
Take somebody without felonies with you.
Yeah. Yeah, and more than one vehicle, I think, too. Anyway, the world passport's fascinating.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.